Adam, thank you so much for joining us. And this is such an interesting topic to talk, especially as we have just a couple days left in the 2022 session. There's a couple bills on the table. This is one of those. In addition to being part of Hinton Mills, you are also the director of Kentucky Welding Institute. So talk to me a little bit about that institution and kind of the success you guys have seen so far.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Thanks for discussing this bill. And yeah, we started Kentucky Welding Institute in 2015. It was a group of, there's 5 of us business partners that were small business owners, educators. And we saw that there's, not a one size fits all approach to education. Not only is college or university not necessarily the route to train all of our high school graduates or young people in Kentucky, but there's not a one size fits all as far as proprietary schools. So one number that stood out to me back in 2015 was that the American Welding Society had put out a report that said that we were about 300,000 welders short in America by 2020. And so anyway, we wanted to start this school that was a fast-paced school that would be basically a full-time training opportunity for students who want to get in, train for 6 months and get out, and they don't necessarily want to take a lot of other classes. They don't want to spend 2 years of their life. They want to get in the workforce. So over the course of the last 7 years, we've trained over 500 students here at Kentucky Welding Institute and put them in high-paying jobs across Kentucky and across the country.
That's incredible. And, you made such a good point about the fact that, at this point, some kind of credential or post-secondary is necessary, but college and university is not necessarily for everyone. I don't think people talk about proprietary schools quite enough. We know some of the skills, but why are proprietary skills and these proprietary schools in Kentucky so important to Kentucky's economy?
Well, I think that it's, there's, these jobs, whether it's welding, whether it's somebody that does HVAC, whether it's plumbing, whether it's someone that does electrical, that these folks are literally building and keeping our country going. There's lots of other proprietary routes too. That I think that all jobs are important, that anybody that we can get trained and that they're making a difference here in their communities, in their households, as somebody that's a contributing taxpayer in Kentucky, I think is huge. So not everybody is bound to work at a feed store or work at the Kentucky Chamber or work as a legislator or any other role that you can name, but there's a lot of folks that do like to work with their hands, that they do like to work in the trades. And I think that it's important that that we don't accidentally pick winners and losers here in Kentucky, and that we're trying to provide education and opportunities, basically to eliminate barriers to education to students, regardless of what type of contributing career that they want to get into.
And that's a great point. And this bill, Senate Bill 163, is all about eliminating barriers to education. So it's got a couple of different aspects to it, but one of them would be using keys at proprietary schools. So it's currently not available. Is there any financial aid available for proprietary schools? And what would it look like? Why is it so important that we get this bill passed so that that is available for students who have earned that scholarship? Whether
it's your CDL school, whether it's your Kentucky Welding Institute, whether it's a beauty school or somebody that wants to get into phlebotomy, that there are opportunities to get things such as FAFSA, but that process is a challenge for entities like us to be able to. We're trying to become accredited. We should be duly accredited. After 7 years, we'll be accredited with 2 different entities. But again, it's taken us 7 years and lots of money to be able to do that. And I think that we have been on a pretty fast track pace. So just as an example, the KEYS money over the last 7 years, our students have missed down on $146,000 of KEYS money that they have earned during their time as a high school student in Kentucky that they've not been able to use at our school. I do want to point out that, you know, these are high paying jobs that our graduates get. Last year, our graduates that from 2021, that they're averaging $26.41 per hour, $50 per hour per diem. So these are folks that are making large contributions to Kentucky. One of the other things that I should point out is that when we started KWI in 2015, I was somewhat unfamiliar with Keys money, but what I do know over the last 7 years is that our high school students are not unfamiliar with it. It's something that they're very familiar with. They and their parents very much feel like they have earned this money, that they've been told that they earn this money. So it's kind of a punch in the stomach when they go to a place like Kentucky Welding Institute and they're told, oh, we can't accept that. You can't use that here. And so this bill would help us break down that barrier and allow, with certain safeguards in place, would allow entities like Kentucky Welding Institute and other proprietary schools across Kentucky to be able to accept Keys money and allow those students to have the choices that they need to best accommodate them.
And you made the point that students that graduate from the Welding Institute and who go into these types of careers are making a lot of money, you know, especially as we're facing a workforce shortage and we're hearing a lot of talk about pay and things like that. That's a very high salary, especially starting out. And a lot of these different, you know, career paths have that ability, which it's important for people to get into these career paths. So can you tell me a little bit about the success of some of your students in the workforce after attending the Institute?
Yeah, so I mean, our goal is, and the goal of other proprietary schools is essentially to train tomorrow's workforce, tomorrow's taxpayers, and that's an important thing to remember. But our students have been very successful because of the accreditation process that I mentioned earlier. That we have to basically have third party verified data for everything that we're doing, and 90-some% of our students, you know, are placed in a job within the first handful of months that they're out of Kentucky Welding Institute. We've had 16 students. We've got something that we call the 100K Club, and that's a student that in his first 12 months out of Kentucky Welding Institute can document that he or she has grossed over $100,000 in their first 12 months out of school. So keep in mind, this could be an 18-year-old that we train for 6 months here in Flemingsburg. They go on to gross $100,000. And so we've had 16 of those out of our 500 graduates. 12 of those are Kentuckians. So I think that's a pretty big number, just to give you an idea. So it's not just the average of, you know, $26 an hour starting off. It's these other really, really high achievers that are contributing. And then equally important is the fact that these students, that many of them, whether it's students that are from Kentucky, they're going back and working somewhere in Kentucky, or it's one of the students from the other 39 states that we've trained students from that have come here, relocated to Kentucky Welding Institute, and now working at a Kentucky-based business. So they're part of our workforce. There's another example. We know of many students that they may be in Ohio County or Elliott County or Barron County or whatever the case may be. They're working out of state. They're keeping their residence. They're you know, basically living out of their hometown, making purchases in their town, whether it's an automobile, whether it's eventually a home. They're paying taxes at home and just bringing money back to our state. So any way that you look at it, these students are contributing to Kentucky's economy, and it's important to try to support them the best that we can.
Absolutely. And that is incredible to hear. Like I said, especially as we face a workforce shortage and open positions across Kentucky, it's so important to highlight and see how many careers are out there and the success that you can have in them. Is there anything else that we haven't covered, especially about Senate Bill 163, that you want people to understand, especially as we are down to the wire in the session this year, why it's important for this to become law?
Well, I think two things. One, I think that Senate Bill 163 is it's just a common sense bill, that there's a lot of things out there that there should, be great debate about, that there's things that maybe are politicized. This is not one of those things. Senate Bill 163, as far as it pertains to students being able to use their KEYS money, it's just a common sense bill. It started off as 2 years ago as House Bill 338. Last year, it was House Bill 234, or earlier this session, it was House Bill 234, and it was rolled into this. So we've been trying really hard to just get this common sense legislation put in place for Kentucky students and for Kentucky employers. I would say that the other thing is, just keep in mind that that we don't need to be picking winners and losers. There's not a one size fits all approach to education. And maybe most importantly, that students that go to a proprietary school in Kentucky, there are plenty of safeguards in place that already exist through the Kentucky Proprietary Board that governs us, that makes sure that we are protecting that student, that the student is getting what they paid for. So there's little risk on this and high reward for Kentuckians.